It's late. You're on the couch, half watching something you've already forgotten the name of, and you glance down. Your dog is looking at you, not at the TV, not toward the kitchen where the treats are, just at you. Their eyes are soft, slightly squinted, and there's this stillness you can't quite explain. It's not begging. It's not waiting. It's something that feels, if you're honest, like being understood by a creature who has never spoken a word. Most people would call that love and leave it there, and most people would be selling it short, because what's actually happening behind that gaze is a neurochemical feedback loop so specific, so powerful, that it mirrors the one thing in human biology we consider sacred: the bond between a mother and her newborn child. That's not a metaphor. It's the same molecule, the same pathway, operating across two entirely different species. And there's one thing about this bond that almost nobody talks about, something that changes what it means for your dog to choose your bed at the end of the night. When you hear it, you'll never see that moment the same way again. But we have to start with the stare, because what your dog is doing when they hold your eyes is, from an evolutionary standpoint, deeply strange. In wolves, a sustained stare is a threat. It's a challenge. Somewhere in 14,000 years of living alongside us, dogs didn't just learn to tolerate eye contact. They turned it into something entirely new. They weaponized it for love. In 2015, a team led by Miho Nagasawa published a study in Science that changed how we understand the human-dog relationship. They measured oxytocin, the bonding chemical your brain releases when you hold a newborn, in both dogs and their owners before and after interaction. Dogs who held longer gazes showed significantly elevated oxytocin, and the owner's oxytocin rose in tandem. The longer the dog looked, the more bonded the human became. The more bonded the human became, the more they engaged. A self-reinforcing loop, the exact mechanism that bonds a mother to her infant. Then they tested wolves, hand-raised wolves, socialized with humans from birth. The loop didn't activate at all. This isn't something dogs learned. It's something they evolved over thousands of generations of surviving beside us. Not all stares are the same. A brief glance is informational, your dog checking what you're doing. But a sustained gaze, 2.5 seconds or longer, with relaxed facial muscles and soft eyes, that's the bonding signal, and it literally changes your blood chemistry. Your parasympathetic nervous system shifts into dominance. Heart rate slows, skin conductance drops. Your dog has triggered a pharmacological response in your brain through eye contact alone. When researchers administered oxytocin nasally to dogs, gaze duration toward their owner increased, but not toward strangers. The molecule knows its target. There's breed variation worth noting. Herding dogs and retrievers offer sustained eye contact readily. They were bred for it. But primitive breeds like Akitas and Basenjis almost never do. Which means if one of those dogs holds your gaze with soft eyes, the signal is even stronger. That's not instinct, that's choice. But the stare is only the surface, because your dog isn't just looking at you. They're reading you through channels you didn't know were open. Dogs process your emotional state through 3 simultaneous streams: your face, your voice, and the chemical signature your body broadcasts through your skin. A 2022 study from Queen's University Belfast showed dogs identified stress state sweat samples with 93.75% accuracy. They detect cortisol in your breath at parts per trillion, and this isn't passive. A 2018 study in learning and behavior found dogs crossed a room 3 times faster to reach a crying owner versus one humming calmly regardless of obstacles in the way. Your dog doesn't just sense your pain, they move toward it. So your dog can see your emotions, smell your stress, and bond you to them with a look. But when you're not even in the room, they're still reaching for you through the one thing you leave behind. You've caught your dog sleeping on your dirty laundry, curled up on a sweatshirt, burrowed into stripped sheets. Maybe you thought it was funny. It's one of the most specific expressions of attachment a dog can offer. Your worn clothing retains volatile organic compounds from your skin, a scent profile as individually specific as a fingerprint. A dog's olfactory bulb constitutes roughly 12.5% of their total brain mass versus about 0.01% in humans. Scent isn't a background sense for dogs. It's the primary architecture through which they model their social world. In 2015, a team at Emory University put dogs in an fMRI scanner and exposed them to 5 scents: Their own, a familiar dogs, an unfamiliar dogs, a familiar humans, and an unfamiliar humans. The scent that lit up the caudate nucleus, the reward center, most powerfully was the familiar humans. Not the other dog. You. Your smell is, neurologically, your dog's favorite thing in the world. This behavior spikes when you're gone. The scent functions as a transitional object, the same role a security blanket plays for a child. And while your dog lies on your clothes, they're depositing their own scent onto the fabric, creating a blended olfactory identity that reinforces the bond from both sides. They prefer recently worn items over laundered ones, and intensity tracks with how long you wore it. Even your stressed scent, cortisol metabolites from your worst day, registers as safety. Behaviorists recommend leaving a worn shirt during boarding stays because it measurably reduces cortisol and distress vocalizations. Your worst day still smells like home. And this invisible tether shows up in real time in the way your dog moves through space beside you. You've seen it on walks or in unfamiliar places. Your dog ventures out, sniffs around, then turns back to look at you. They trot over, nudge your hand, head off again. In 2012, researchers documented social referencing in dogs. When facing something unfamiliar, dogs look to their owner's face to decide how to react. Calm owner, they approach. Tense owner, they withdraw. Your emotional expression is their compass. In new environments, imprinted dogs explore in expanding concentric circles, returning to the owner before pushing further, almost a perfect mirror of what Mary Ainsworth called secure base behavior in human infants. Each check-in triggers a microdose of oxytocin in both of you, a low-level bonding drip sustained across the entire day. But there's a distinction people get wrong. A dog who never lets you out of sight, who pants when you leave the room, that's not deeper imprinting. That's insecure attachment. Healthy imprinting looks like calm departures and joyful reunions. Confidence fueled by security, not desperation disguised as devotion. So they're orbiting you, through scent, through glances, through proximity. But there's a layer deeper, because an imprinted dog doesn't just follow you, they start to become you. Your dog listens to you but completely ignores your partner. Everyone thinks it's a training problem or a respect thing. It's neurochemistry. Research from the University of Budapest showed dogs distinguish individual human voices with extraordinary precision, even through electronic distortion. When they hear their person's voice, the caudate nucleus activates. A stranger's voice doesn't come close. Your dog filters for your frequency, your cadence, your rhythm over everything else. When you've been the primary person in a dog's life, you create a private communication system. Subtle tone shifts, specific gestures, even breathing patterns become cues no one else replicates. Your voice triggers oxytocin, your voice triggers compliance, not through dominance, but because responding to you has been the most reliably rewarding pattern in their life. But selective listening is just the entry point. Over time, they absorb your personality. A 2019 study in Royal Society Open Science measured cortisol in hair samples from 58 dog owner pairs. The correlation between owner and dog long-term stress levels was significant. Your dog is chemically synchronized with you over months. A 2020 study in Scientific Reports GPS tracked over 300 pairs and found strong correlations between owner step counts and dog activity independent of breed. Active owners, active dogs. Sedentary owners, sedentary dogs. And this deepens over time. Dogs become more behaviorally similar to their owners after 2 years compared to the first 6 months. This is learned adaptation, not temperament matching. The honesty here matters. Mirroring means your dog amplifies your best qualities but also absorbs your worst. A chronically anxious owner can create a reactive dog through sustained cortisol contagion, not bad training, but the quiet chemistry of shared life. Your dog's emotional health is partly a mirror of your own, not a guilt trip, an invitation. They hear you like no one else. They absorb your rhythms, your stress, your calm. And all of it, the stare, the scent-seeking, the orbiting, the mirroring, converges in one place, your bed. Think about what sleep is for them. Your dog descends from an animal that survived by never being fully vulnerable. Wolves sleep in shifts, in positions they can spring from, surrounded only by the individuals they trust with their lives. Sleep is the single highest vulnerability state for any prey-aware mammal. Every survival instinct says, be careful where you close your eyes, and your dog closes them next to you. In wild canid packs, communal sleeping isn't about hierarchy. The animal at the center isn't the alpha, it's the most trusted individual. When your dog passes every other bed, every couch, every comfortable surface, and climbs into yours, they're making the most significant safety decision their instincts allow. Cortisol sampling shows dogs who co-sleep with their preferred person have lower morning cortisol than dogs created separately. And the mechanism is self-reinforcing. Proximity deepens scent familiarity, which increases oxytocin, which increases proximity seeking. Every night strengthens the bond's chemical architecture. The signal is strongest in dogs who shouldn't want to be there. Shiba Inus, Basenjis. Breeds wired for independence. When a genetically aloof dog overrides that wiring and chooses your bed, your pillow, the spot where your scent is strongest, that's devotion overriding genetics, and there's a distinction that matters. An imprinted dog chooses your bed even when other comfortable options exist. An anxious dog follows because leaving feels unbearable. One settles in with a sigh, rolls onto their back. The other stays alert, positioned by the door, never fully letting go. The difference is everything. Now, there's a question that hangs over all of this. Is this permanent? Once your dog imprints, is that bond locked forever? The honest answer is no. And that's what makes it remarkable. In birds, imprinting is a one-time event. A duckling locks onto a moving object in its first hours. Irreversible, automatic, and having nothing to do with whether that object deserves devotion. A biological accident. Dogs are different. Canine attachment is plastic, not permanent. The critical socialization window creates the strongest initial bonds, but adult dogs retain neuroplasticity in social bonding circuits throughout life. Time investment is the strongest predictor of primary attachment, and quality outweighs quantity every time. 30 minutes of engaged interaction builds more bond than 8 hours of passive co-presence. Rehomed adult dogs can achieve secure base attachment scores equivalent to dogs raised from puppyhood within 6 to 12 months. The bond can be built from scratch at any age. Your dog doesn't love you because of a switch that flipped once. They choose you, not once, every single day. And that daily, active, neurochemical decision is more meaningful than any biological accident could ever be. Everything here, the stare, the scent, the orbiting, the mirroring, the sleeping, it's all one thing seen from different angles. A creature who evolved alongside us for tens of thousands of years, not just to live near us, but to love us in a way that reshapes their brain chemistry, their stress hormones, their sleep. Tonight, when you sit down and your dog looks up with those soft eyes, you'll know what's happening behind them. And maybe you'll hold that gaze a little longer. If your dog does any of these things, the stare, the laundry, the checking in, the choosing your bed every night, tell me about it in the comments. Not for the algorithm, because they deserve to be talked about the way they talk about you, with their whole body every single day. And if you've lost a dog who did these things, I'd love to hear their name. Thanks for being here.